I'm going to try and get on top of this little vegetable garden border today. Made a good start on it during the week. You can see where we've been digging it over. Complicated this one because on the back wall we've got these Tayberry vines that should look like this already, nicely tied in with all the old growth cut off from the bases, but that's what they're looking like at the moment. A complete tangle of nettle, bindweed, and then this year's fruiting spurs where they've just fallen forward and then split and grown, and these root themselves into the soil in the border. We didn't do much with this border last year because of the building work we were having done here, and this year it's probably going to be trashed again because this barn is about to be converted with work starting at the end of February, beginning of March, so any time now really. But I want to try and get this nice and tidied, and an edge of pebbles, which is what we've done with the other new borders. The paths have been a real success, and the demarcation of them just with the flint cobbles or boulders that I've collected from the local quarry has been really a good thing. They form a really nice soft edge that as the paths settle, they settle with it. Allow if you get them close enough just to retain the mushroom compost that we're top dressing these borders with. Just gives you a nice clean demarcation, holds the compost in, allows the gravel not to spill back over onto what effectively becomes slightly raised beds. And I want to extend that all the way down here. This used to be a grass path and an absolute nightmare to look after, but if I can get the edging there, then it should be really low maintenance. Just going to get those borders dug over, as much root as I possibly can. Going to probably take 3 or 4 wheelbarrows out of this lot and tidy up these fruit bushes. We've got blackcurrant bushes that have been growing here now for about 8 years. The front 2 were pruned really quite hard last year and are upright and firm. The back 2 I didn't get around to, and they've collapsed. And I think that really shows the difference between a pruned bush, which will hold fruit nicely upright off the ground, and an unpruned bush, an uncared for bush, where gradually they just spread out and the fruit's all so low that it, as the leaf comes out and the weight just falls down onto the ground. So a real good reason why you should be pruning these into bowl shapes, keeping the upright growth, clearing out the centre of them to allow the light and the air through. You'll get a far better crop if you do that. So a lot of work on today. Got a little row of daylilies that were just healed into this border when we were digging them out, creating the paths for the last project. But just look at the state of these raspberries. Not particularly proud of these. They've not been cut back. Full of bindweed again. This border really is problematic, and I'm thinking about moving all this fruit down onto the new borders and starting again with some moving the same canes but just in some clean fresh ground, and then this can all be either part of the development as a patio or path, or we can put some black plastic down and get rid of the bindweed over a couple of seasons using that method. We've got rhubarb crowns in here which I'm going to have to move as well. They're just starting to come to life, and now's a really good time if you're going to shift an established rhubarb crown to start getting some bits from the side. Almost impossible to move a whole crown like this. It's probably about 4 or 5 feet across, and the roots are going to be absolutely enormous. But it's the peripheral little bits like this that you're more likely to be able to successfully move into a new position to grow them on. I'm going to miss this rhubarb, although we overproduce massively. There's about 5 or 6 established crowns here. You can see one that I dug up earlier when we were just clearing some nettle root out of it, and that will transplant fine even though it's been on the surface. There's no fine root. That's the problem with these, so they take a couple of years to establish. They'll be knocked back quite hard, which is why I'm probably going to leave some of them in this position to fruit this year, and you've got to be patient allowing the new crown to establish into its new position and get growing. But I think the soil down there is far better, and they'll do that quite quickly. And they've got to move from here anyway, because the new front end of the building's starting just where that wall is. All this has got to be cleared out and moved. Going to be far easier with some mechanical help rather than trying to do it manually with a wheelbarrow. So I'm being a bit lazy and waiting for the builders to turn up to do most of it. But it is a job, as you can see.